Swain and civil rights attorney Areva Martin. Professor Swain, Black Lives Matter, the movement has become a political flashpoint. I saw a Drudge headline which said, Black Lives Kill. Is this the end of the Black Lives Matter movement?
I would hope so, because I believe that it has been a very destructive force in America. And I urge all of your viewers to go to their website and look at what they're really about. It's a Marxist organization all about black liberation. It's not really addressing the real problems affecting African Americans. And so it's problematic. It's misleading black people. It needs to go.
Areva, your response?
That is absolutely ridiculous. Black Lives Matter has done more to move the needle on reforms in the criminal justice system than elected officials and community leaders all over this country. I live in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Police Department, one of the largest police departments in the country, now is equipped with body cameras. That's true of other police departments all over this nation, primarily because young people primarily took to the streets, Black Lives Matter, to raise the issue of the inequities in the criminal justice system. And just because one lone individual, criminal, who's not affiliated with the Black Lives Matter group, does what happened in Dallas, shoots those cops, you cannot equate what he did with that entire movement. It is a peaceful movement. It is a movement that's raising the issue of the criminal justice system, the disproportionality of racial bias in that system. And I think they ought to be credited. I think they're going to be empowered. I think they're going to continue to push the needle on this thing we're tackling in this country called justice.
Professor Swain, I think I hear you say that you're not excoriating the movement just for the actions of this lone gunman, but rather you've looked at what the group purports to stand for itself, and you don't like what you see.
No, I don't like what I see. It's pure Marxism. It talks about state violence, genocide. All of those are buzzwords that are quite destructive. And again, I urge your viewers to go to the Black Lives Matter's website and read their own definition of what does Black Lives Matters mean. And in the case of the two recent police shootings, videos don't tell the entire story. And if you look and dig further, in the case of the shooting in Louisiana, the guy was a convicted felon. He had an illegal gun, and he resisted arrest. And so we get part of the story. And in the case in Minnesota, where you have the girlfriend that videotaped, where there are other videotapes that she has on her Facebook page that she has live streamed. And in one of them, she and her boyfriend, they're sitting in their car, smoking reefer with the child in the background. And so that video is out there. And so we have to look at the credibility of the witnesses. We need to not rush to judgment. And I find the media, they're putting too much focus on the videos before we have the facts.
Areva, respond to that.
With all due respect, Professor, you just suggested that the shooting of Alton Sterling is justified because he has a prior criminal record. At the time that the police arrived at the scene after getting a call from a homeless man, they had no information about his record. Simply because you have a criminal record doesn't mean your life is any less valuable in this system. Police officers aren't empowered to shoot people because they have a criminal record. They didn't have that information when they
had information that he had a gun. They knew he had a gun, and it turned out to be an illegal gun.
Can I finish,
It turned out to be illegal.
I allowed you to
please,
finish.
Areva. Professor, let her finish.
The whole
Go ahead.
issue, yes, the issue is, were those officers in imminent danger? Did they have the need? Was there an opportunity to de-escalate that situation? And what we see time and time again is when you have officer encounters with African American men, there's never an effort. And I don't want to overgeneralize, but generally you don't see efforts to de-escalate the situations. You see the situations go from 0 to 100, and a level of force that's used that's not used when there are not African American men involved. So for you to suggest that Alton Sterling's criminal record somehow justified those cops shooting him when he was unarmed, pinned to the ground, is just a ridiculous statement. And it really highlights the issue of race and how African American men are treated differently by law enforcement in this country.
Professor Swain, do you believe that the climate of racial tension in the United States today mirrors where we were in the 1960s?
I think that conditions in America have worsened, and when we talk about criminal justice, we have to deal with the fact that blacks are 13% of the population, yet they do commit a disproportionate amount of crime, like 37% of the violent crimes. They're more than 8 times more likely to commit homicides. And so when a police officer approaches a black person, I'm sure if it's in the inner city, they have that in the back of their minds. And I don't think people should be shot for routine police stops. But for a police officer, whenever they approach a car and they don't know who's in the car, there's always danger. And one reason why more blacks die in these encounters is that they're more likely to resist arrest. And Ariva knows that, and she should be trying to educate the population.
Ariva, you get the final word. I want to keep it fair. Ariva, go ahead.
Okay, in the Philando Castile case, the woman that did the Facebook video, rather than being vilified by Dr. Swain, she should be applauded for her calm, for her composure, for allowing us to see how a routine traffic stop turned into a murder. A cop shoots into a car with a woman and a 4-year-old child, and rather than focus on that cop's actions, we are now blaming both the victim, Philando Castile, and the courageous woman that videotaped that. And that is what the issue is that we have to deal with in this country if we're ever going to get past this. Blaming the victim. The victim shouldn't have resisted. The victim shouldn't have run. The victim should have complied. Let's focus on the cop that has the badge and the gun and is acting under the color of authority. That's where this issue will be resolved.
A lot of disagreement, but respect, and I appreciate having the dialogue here. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Tweet me at Smirkanish with your